Hey, this is 6 Bolt in Von Doom's lab. This is a release video for Hook of the Reaper version 1.3.3 and LED Hook Strip version 0.4 and ROMSniffer version 1.1. So three releases in one. So I guess it's kind of big, but it's not that much. But it's not too bad. But let's get into it. So for the bugs. So for Hook of the Reaper, there was a bug for the light controllers not shutting down properly. So sometimes some people had, I think if they had pack LEDs too, and then they put in the LED hook strip, and when they closed down Hook of the Reaper, it sometimes wasn't turning off the attract lights. And I kind of went through it, and I kind of knew maybe from the start, but yeah, it was kind of a multi-threaded and pointers problem, which is kind of like the gruesome twosome of things for bugs. You know, it's usually multi-thread or pointers. It's always kind of those two. And they're always kind of hard, and they kind of make these intermittent problems, which are kind of hard to find. But I did, what was happening was with the deconstructor. So when the program closes, it has a deconstructor that can run and, you know, kind of destroys things in the proper way and gives it back to the operating system memory. Well, it was getting, sometimes it got destroyed before it could run the destructor, and that's why it was kind of having problems. So I kind of fixed it in the list, and the list is where, you know, the light guns and light controllers are stored at. And now running it, I found the deconstructors are running fully now for the light controllers. One of the problems is like they're on a different thread, the light thread, and like I said, it's a pointer too. So it was kind of a little hard one, but it was pretty easy to fix. So I got that in, and the next one is kind of the bigger one. This is actually, well, it's not even a bug in Hook of the Reaper. This is what I call the auto LED bug with the Retro Shooters RS3 Reapers. So people are like, okay, what is the auto LED bug? Well, it's kind of when you use the auto LED command, which is ZR, after you enter external control command. So kind of how the Reapers work, you send it the ZS command, and that puts it into external control command, and that will make the 5 side LEDs kind of orange. But they had a command called auto LED, I guess, to take it out. If you didn't want them orange, you can just put it back to normal mode. So if there was no ammo value, I put it back. I used the auto LED to put it back into the normal 5 LED thing. If you pull the trigger, it kind of does. It has 4 different lighting effects. And that's when I had no ammo value. Because when I have ammo value, then I can light them up depending on how much ammo the person has. And that's kind of where it goes red and orange, depending on how much ammo you have. I think it's over, if it's like 15 or over, then it starts, dividing it. So if it's 15, then it's 3 bullets per light, So you have to shoot three times, and then you have 4 orange, 1 red. And if you shoot 3 more times, you have 3 orange and 2 red kind of going on. But if I don't have the ammo, then I can't do that. So what happens? You put it at ZS, then you do ZR. What is the bug? Okay, well, that's the rumble motor. So usually, if it's not in external control mode, if you hit like the little circle button, it will rumble automatically. Or if you switch the circle to the bottom, you hit the bottom and it will rumble. So that's pretty much what happens. That blocking of that rumble when you do the reload is not there anymore. So when you go into the external controls, yes, it blocks that rumble when you hit the button, the reload button. But when I do the ZR, the auto LED, that rumble comes right back. It's not blocked anymore, which kind of sucks. So if you hit that button, it's gonna rumble. Even if you have like full ammo and you hit the button, it rumbles, and it's out of my control because it's something wrong with the Reaper. It has a bug. So usually when you hit that, it's the middle mouse button in keyboard and mouse mode, and I forget the button when it's in gamepad mode. And this is kind of noticeable when you do pedal games, specifically kind of Time Crisis, because a lot of times the reload and the pedal are the same thing, right? You hit the pedal and you hide and it reloads, right? But when you keep on pressing that button, it's just going to constantly rumble all the time. And it kind of sucks. A lot of people don't like that, which, it's not, it's pretty easy to, understand that. I mean, I wouldn't like it too much anyways. But a lot of the Time Crisis was a big one because on MAME they didn't have an ammo value. I think now that there's a Lua script for Time Crisis 2, it has the ammo value. But that was kind of one of the reasons why I made the Lua script for Time Crisis, is to get the ammo value. So then there's no kind of problem for this. I did have put in a default LG option to fix this too, which was the skip auto LED, which then would skip that command and it will make it, have, like I said, the sides of your Reaper light gun will always be kind of orange. So, like I said, if it had the ammo value, it wasn't a problem. And if I go back, but then I updated some games too in the Nixos 3 emulator. So all the Time Crisis, Gunslinger, Endgame, Virtual Cop, all those games, default LGs, I put that option in to skip the auto LED. Then I checked all the Demolish Shooter and MAME, like kind of pedal games, and all those are good because they all have ammo value. So hopefully that's kind of good. But because of that, I had, like I said, the default LG, I can put the option in to skip it, but I wanted to put a setting into Hook of the Reaper 2 for the Reapers. And this is to always just skip the auto LED. So, because there's still games that out there that don't have an ammo value, and if you hit the reload button, it's going to happen. Because, like, let's say you have Let's Go Jungle, right? You have unlimited ammo, right? So you're never going to reload, but if you want to map that reload button somewhere on your light gun and you push it, it's going to rumble. And sometimes, to people, depending on how you set up your light gun, if you're always going to be hitting reload for games like that have unlimited ammo and it rumbles, some people are not going to like that. So I wanted to have an option just to kind of go back to normal where you're not using this auto LED command. You won't, the 5 side LEDs will always be orange all the time because there's no ammo value. But sometimes people don't care about the 5 side LEDs. They're like, I'm not making any videos. I don't look at it. I don't care. I just want to put this solution in, so then I'm not always getting this rumble every time I hit the reload button for all these feedback games. So that's what I put in. So now if you come here, like I have Reapers already done. So, oops, I did the wrong one. So let's do edit light gun this time. So now you can see I have RS3 Reapers. And if you come here to advanced and display settings, there's a new setting right here, skip auto LED. And if you can see I have a tooltip on it. So if you just click that, then it won't do the auto LED anymore. So this bug won't happen anymore. Of course, like I said, you're not going to have any displays happening on the 5 LEDs on the side. But, like I said, it depends on what people want. I try to go into a lot of the pedal patterns, the ones I have the most problems with, and put that in with the default LG, but then the other games might not be too bad to people, right? Because you're not hitting a reload, or if you hit reload, it's going to rumble anyways. So sometimes it might matter, but that's why I like to give options to the people, right? You can decide if you want to disable it or skip it or not to keep it on. So now, if you want to skip that, you just hit that, then you can hit edit, and then that will be done. Then also, too, if you come in and you make a new Reaper, right, you can just go to the tab and turn it on too. So that's the new setting. And of course, since there's a new setting, there's going to change the save file of the light gun. So I put that in, like always, it's automatic and people won't even notice. It will load up your save file, put the default value in, and then if you want to go change it, it will save it. So you don't have to change any of your save files or anything. That's automatic. Hook of the Reaper will do that automatically. But yeah, and also I might found a solution around this maybe. I don't know until I know more. So I am kind of working with retro shooters to see if we can do some different things maybe to get around this or not. It's still way too early, so I'm not going to say too much, but hopefully it does it, but if not. So right now, for the RS3 Reapers, there's kind of one hardware and 3 software bugs for the Reapers. So I'm sure now people are like, okay, what are they? So the first hardware bug is kind of like I call the power supply kind of issue, or holdback kind of issue. This is if 2 Reapers hold back the slide at the same time, it might reset. This doesn't happen to every Reapers, it just sometimes will happen to certain Reapers. So if you're unlucky, I was actually one of the people, because they originally came out with a 24 volt 3 amp right now, and I think they changed it to a higher ampage now. So this is not even, I don't think, a problem for a lot of the people who bought later on. But they originally, it was 24 volt 3 amp. And if you had that 3 amp and you had both guns hold back at the same time, yeah, it would reset your light guns. So it wasn't a good thing. So the way around it, you just had to buy a new power supply, or you had to contact retro shooters and they could send you one. Since it was like $10 to buy a new one, I just bought one on Amazon and got it like the next day. So that's why I always tell people each gun needs about 2 amps or more. So 24 volt, 4 amp or more for the power supply. So that's the hardware kind of bug. So the first software bug had to do with the holdback too, and that was for full auto games. So like for games that it was full auto, you shoot and it goes through all your ammo, then it won't hold it back. Like every once in a while it might hold back, and like a game or two might do it, but the majority of full auto games didn't hold back the slide. And I had 2 videos explaining why this happened in total detail if you want to watch it. But I fixed it in software, so that was the one I fixed in software. So now that's fixed. That's like really no downside to that. Okay, moving on to the second software bug. So this is a problem there's really no solution for. So when you go into external control, it ignores the dip switch to reduce recoil. So if you hit the dip switch to reduce recoil on your Reaper, and then when you use force feedback, it just goes right back to full power. So I think that's still happening. I don't know, but there's no solution for that. That's just, you got to live with it right now. I mean, and the third bug is what I just talked about, is the auto LED. So those kind of the 4 ones that people will know, like these bugs. So hardware has kind of been fixed, and people have talked about. First one I solved fully. Second one I can't do anything. Third one I have like this kind of fix for it, and maybe a better fix later on. But that's like the whole explanation of all this bugs and all that. So it's not really a bug with Hook of the Reaper. It's a bug with actually the Reaper light guns themselves. Okay. Then the last bug is I couldn't use display range with life and other commands. And the reason with this is if you go on to, if you go to like light controllers and you go to game default file info, we had this rule 6, right? The same light controller and groups cannot be used twice on the same output signal. And this is kind of, I had a example down here for like P1 damage. I had flash RGB and a sequence RGB. And the reason for that is if you had it on the same light controller and same group, it would just do this first one, then the second one would be ignored all the time. Right? So it was just a waste. It was never going to do that second command. But now that I have these background commands, right? I have the display range for LED Hook strip, and I have the background command for the Ultimarc. You can actually run commands on top of that. So that's why I had to update this rule, right? I said now it says unless one of the commands is a background command, like background or display range, because kind of runs in the background, then commands can run on top of it. So that's why I kind of call it a background command. And the problem with life is because death flash ran on the life thing too. So if you're trying to display the player life, then you have to use the command for death flash too if you wanted to get the flash for death. But those are two commands running, on the same light controller for the same group or strip. So that was kind of the problem with that. But now I fixed it, I updated it, and now, if one of the commands is, like I said, display range or background, it will kind of ignore that one command. It will ignore the background ones. And if you have a third command in there, it will check it. If it's not a background one, then it's like, it will error out. So now that works. I've tested it out. I had one player game where you have player 1 ammo and player 1 health on the right. So ammo on the left and life on the right. Then they are both flashing for damage and death, and it was working fine. So it doesn't error out. Then if you put 2 regular commands in, it will error out. So it's all working good now, which is good. So actually, also for LED Hook strip and ROMSniffer, there was really no bugs, really too much. So there was those 3 things for Hook of the Reaper now that they are fixed. So let's go on to enhancements. Okay. A lot of this first stuff is just going to be a lot of kind of GUI stuff for Hook of the Reaper. So for the line edits, I knew I had this problem a lot of times. If the line edit was constrained, the cursor position was weird. So, okay, what kind of is the line edit? It's kind of when you put information in. So a good spot maybe is if I can, here, let me take it out. A good spot here is if you wanted to put info into this, you can't type any letter. So I'm trying to type letters because only numbers go in. So that's a constraint for, you know, putting in a number in, because I don't want any letters or spaces or, you know, colons or anything. I just want numbers. So you can type it in and you don't have that. But the weird thing is, as you can see, it creates all, since I say you can put 4 numbers in, it creates 4 cursor positions automatically. And if you clicked here, like if I move it all the way over here, I can't put any numbers in. But if I move it all the way to the left, you can put numbers in, right? So I was like, oh, so every time I did that, you always have to click onto the left side. If you clicked onto the right side, it would go to the end and you couldn't put anything in. So that kind of was driving me crazy. So I finally fixed it for all these things. So now if you mouse click, see, it kind of goes all the way to the left and you can type it in. And now even if you click it on the right side, it stays there. And that's how for all of them. So you can always type in like the numbers. So I had to do a subclass in there. So when you click it, it always puts the cursor at the far left or the 0 position where you can enter, you know, 1 to 4 numbers into it if not. But yeah, so this is like throughout kind of everything. So when you put this in here, like testing the light controller, there's a lot of things you put in, and even entering the light gun, there's a couple spaces. So it's kind of like all over. So I fixed all the line edits. So now when you click on it, you can type in fully. You don't have to like move your cursor around anymore. So I finally kind of fixed that one. But I know a lot of people just, you know, you put your light guns in and you don't bother really too much with the GUI kind of thing. But it's still, I was like, I got to finally fix that. The next thing is I changed. Somebody, I think David Grace said, he was like, why don't you just, instead of having like add and plus close, just make it apply. And I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes a lot better sense. So now all the like X plus close just turned to apply, which I think it looks a lot better and all that. So that was an easy one. And also I updated the tray icon menu. So if Hook of the Reaper is in the tray and you right click it, it will bring up a menu like a lot of tray icons do. But now this time I added add light controller, edit light controller, and test light controller to it. So it's kind of a quick and easy thing to just say. Okay, so then I updated when it displays the ROM in game file. So when it just says empty, which means like something, it's like when you open MAME and don't select a game, when you just open it and it brings up that GUI, it will TCP connect to Hook of the Reaper, but it will send this underscore 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 empty just to say, hey, we're open, and we're just kind of waiting around until the person selects a game kind of thing. So that's kind of what tells, you know, I know when I get that, there's nothing. So now, instead of just saying empty, now I have empty waiting for game data. So people know it's connected, but it's just waiting for game data. It doesn't have the game data yet. Then the other one is when TCP disk socket disconnects, it wasn't clearing out the ROM and the game file and all that. So now I just made sure it clears out everything when it disconnects. So that was an easy thing, just cleaning things up. Then I think you probably saw this when doing add light controller for LED Hook. Now instead of LEDs, it says LED controllers, because, you know, as I talked about in the tutorial, I care about the RGB LED controllers. I'm not, you know, too worried about how many like RGB LEDs are in the strip, because actually the controller can have multiple RGB LEDs connected to it. It can have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 6 usually. So if you buy a strip with like 300 RGB LEDs on it, but it only has like 100 like WS2815 controllers, I want that 100. I don't want the 300. I just want the 100 into it. So that's why I put LED controllers in there over LEDs, because that's pretty much what I want. I don't want the number of LEDs. I want the number of LED controllers with it. So that was a quick fix to do that and kind of just make sure people know I just want more of the LEDs. And if it's one LED per controller, then it's easy. Then I updated actually the icon here to make the background transparent. So sometimes when you do this, it won't really show it sometimes because Windows caches all the icons. So sometimes you have to erase the cache icon, or you have to restart your computer or restart the Windows Explorer, which is not the Internet Explorer, but actually, the going through the files and all that Windows Explorer. But I kind of updated it. I'm kind of going back and forth on it if I want to, because I had the white background. But, when I open the tray icon, now it's like hard to see where it's at, because it was easy because I had the white background to click it. But some people didn't like the big white background. They wanted to get rid of it. So I'm like, so I don't know. I might go back, but right now I'll leave it transparent. Oh, but the last thing is actually, okay, finally getting off like the GUI and icon, but the one other thing for LED Hook strip, I added in a reset button. So if like something happened, usually a lot of times people would have to go get the USB and unplug the USB to reset it. I'm like, oh, and I was like, well, maybe that's not the best. So now if you go to Edit Light Controller, you'll see this Reset LHS, which is LED Hook Strip. And if you click that, it will actually reset the Pico 2 device. And, so the track lights will go out for a second, then it takes like another second or two to come back on. So it takes about 2 or 3 seconds to reset the device. Then it comes back and it talks to with Hook of the Reaper, then they get synced again and everything's good to go. So now you can reset the device from Hook of the Reaper if you want to. So if it's not working right or anything, you can just click it, and like I said, it takes 2 or 3 seconds to go through everything. You'll hear an unconnect beep because the serial port is going out, then it comes back, and like I said, Hook of the Reaper knows it takes about 2 seconds to come back, and then it connects to it. So I thought that was a good thing to have, just because I've had I haven't really had that happen, but I know a lot of times that people are putting these things in the cabinet and they're sometimes hard to get to. Just be good to have, just reset it. Okay, so that's all the enhancements for Hook of the Reaper. So now for LED Hook Strip, as you saw, I did a video explaining a lot of it where I updated the display range. So instead of having max count, now you put the max range in. So when you put like the max count in, it built an array off the max count when the game started. And it also did all the calculations for that static array, right? But since the array was static, it didn't do any calculations. So if your ammo changed through the game, the display wouldn't use 100% unless it was the same ammo value as the other gun. So for example, if you're playing a game and your normal weapon was 100, so you set the display range to 100 and you go play, works great for the 100 value. It's using 100% of the strip. But when you got a different weapon and its max ammo was 50, Well, okay, so yeah, 50 out of 100, it was only going to use 50% of the strip. It wasn't going to use 100% of the strip. So that was kind of the problem of the old way. But a lot of times, uh, some games is, yeah, well, I don't know all the games, but I know some games you just have one weapon. Some games can get different weapons. But since you're only going to use up to 50%, I was like, then also a lot of people didn't want to look up like the max ammo of every game too. So then they would have to find that and create the patterns, and people are like, oh, that's going to take time. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I created like over 300 default LG game files myself. So I know it's a pain in the ass. And also, I don't have any strips on my setup. So it's kind of like, so I was like, okay, I'll create the max range so it's easy, so you can use one file if you want to. Then that should go for all the games, because now you can just put a big range in, and when it reloads, or it will took that value and use it. So what is a reload? Well, it's kind of when the new ammo value is bigger than the old value. And that happens with like guns and all that. That's what I call a reload. But it can happen with life too, or any kind of value if it gets bigger. So now it takes, so when it gets that new higher, when the new value is higher, it will do all the calculations. And if the array is big enough, because it'll just use a section of that array, or if it's bigger, if not. So it will use, then so it will use 100% of the strip all the time, because it will do the calculations it needs to figure out how to get all of it. So now a lot of times you don't need, you can reuse a lot of the things for the ammo and life values. You don't have to worry about putting the exact ammo value need into it. And one other thing I show, so during that tutorial, I showed the spreadsheets, and I just wanted to show where those spreadsheets are. So if you come here to game files, and if you go to like Demal Shooter, and you go to the bottom, this is where the spreadsheets, Demal Shooter spreadsheet is, right? Then there's one for MAME. So if you go to MAME, there's a spreadsheet there too. I think some of them, so I know Supermodel doesn't have it because there's only 2 games, and FF Blaster and Miscellaneous don't have spreadsheets. But Dolphin, DuckStation, PCSX2 all have spreadsheets and all that. So that's kind of where you get the spreadsheet from. Okay, so now I talked about that. So also I added in exit command. So when you shut down Hook of the Reaper, it did a couple commands. So if you're in the game, it would leave a game, then it will turn off all the attract patterns. So depending on how many strips and all that, it could be like 2 to 5 command sending. So now I just send it down to one command that can do all that. So if it's in game mode, it will get out of game mode, and then it will turn off the attract patterns. So I have command both in game and out of game to do that. So it made it pretty easy. Okay, so then for the Pico 2W, I turned off the Wi-Fi chip. So it was kind of on, but it was in sleep mode. So it was only using 1 to 3 milliamps. But since it was kind of easy just to turn it off, I turned off the chip. You just turn the enable pin off. So on the Pico 2, that pin is not connected. So if people do use the Pico 2W, it's not really going to affect too much. It just, you have some extra code to turn a pin off, pretty much. Then on the Pico 2W, it just turns off the Wi-Fi chip. So I put that in, and hopefully it will save 1 to 3 milliamps, some power. Then for I added in, also I put in the full support for the RGBW. So I did have RGBW in there. I just needed to compile it with it. I just, like, people were just doing RGB, so I didn't really bother. But now I'm trying to get done with LED Hook strip and move on. So I'm trying to just clear all the stuff I have left and get it out so I can move on. But so I added in full support for RGBW. So I actually made the firmware for it. So if you now come to the release of it, go to LED Hook strip and you jump down to 0.4. Now you can RGB, this is kind of the normal one. So you have Pico 2, 2W, and the seed one. But now I have RGBW. So if people do have RGBW controllers and you want to try it out, now you can. So I put that. So for people who are using it, it doesn't really affect anything. Just then you can just use the normal ones, right? But it's cool. Then also, I also did for the set color, because how I have it set up, I only use RGB. Okay, but if you only use RGB, how are you going to take advantage of using the white, right? Because the white can lower the power down. Because when you use white, you're using 3 LEDs. So instead of using 3 LEDs, you can go down to 1 LED. So you cut the power by 2/3, and it's kind of a check. So I just say, hey, is red, green, and blue values above 0? So red, green, and blue have to have a value bigger than 0. If so, then I have to find the minimum value. Then I take that minimum and that becomes the white value. Then for the other colors, the red, green, and blue, I go color equals color minus that minimum. So if RGB are all 255, of course the minimum value would become 255. Then it will be red equals red minus 255. So it will be 255 minus 255, 0. And that will be the same for green and blue. So then red, green, and blue will make white, but they go all to 0, then white will go to 255. So it's kind of an easy calculation to do and put it in. And also, I made sure the only thing left was some of the track pattern stuff. So I put in all the if-defs and all that. So now when you compile it, you can do it. I think I can actually just kind of pull it up. And if you go to the globals, right, you're going to have this defined here is RGBW. And then you can just go true and false for that. Then I have the same thing down here is Wi-Fi. And as you can see, I define the pin for the Wi-Fi and all that. But that's kind of how it's put in. Then also I updated the max number for RGB LEDs, or how many controllers you can put in. It was 999, but it was supposed to be 9,999, which is kind of crazy. If somebody did put 9,999, I think I did calculate it all out. If you go to the light controller, then I think if you go to the strip file, or no, it wasn't in the commands. Oh yeah, here it is. 9,099. So if somebody did have a strip that's 9,999 light controllers, it would take 300 milliseconds to write all the controllers. You would need a power supply that's 5 volts and 750 amps, which would be 3,750 watts. So if you're in USA, you would need a 2-phase power outlet to power that power supply. And it would be over 200 feet long too. So yeah, that'd be kind of crazy. But that's to answer how much stuff you need for a 9,999 light strip. And also I updated the max range. You only could put like 999 in. But as you saw from my last video, we need like 3,000 or something. Might be the sweet spot. But so we couldn't put 3,000 in. So now I changed it to 9,909. Now we can, because now you can go up to 9,909. So I fixed that. And also when you leave a game, when a game starts, it clears out the attract pattern data. So when it starts back up, it'll be synced when it starts back up. Then when it goes on, it kind of drifts. They kind of go opposite ways. The directions shift back and forth. And one thing, actually, I forgot to put in. Well, two things, actually. Now I figured out for Qt, you can make a directory called plugins. And that's where I moved image formats, network information, platform, and styles. And this kind of clears up. So if you get the full release, you'll see that. But the one thing I forgot is now if you go to light files, there's examples here. So if you go into examples, there'll be LED hook strip, Ultimarc, and Ultimarc plus LED hook strip. So if you open LED hook strip, you will see there's an example of display range using ammo with 2 strips. There's an example of display range using ammo and life with 1 player with 2 strips. Then I have a normal 2-strip one and a 4-strip one. Then for Ultimarc, I added some more in here. I have a background 1 player for regular lights, slash damage for RGB. Since I created the slash display thing, I don't know if anybody has used it or not, so decided to put example 1 in so you can actually see it. It uses double slash for damage. Then I think when it starts, it uses a regular slash. Then I just have a normal one for regular lights, a normal one for RGB lights. Then this background was regular, so this is the Virtual Cop 2 background that I showed in the video. So now you have a background for RGB. So now there's a lot more example files for Ultimarc and LED hook slip there. And also for this one, I kind of just put them together just to show people how to put 2 things together. But yeah, that's one thing I forgot to talk. I did more examples, but now I've said that. Then ROMSniffer is pretty easy. Somebody just wanted me to run another program when the game stopped. So how ROMSniffer works, when it finds a game, you can run a program and use the ROM name. But people are like, okay, we can start something, but we want to stop or run something else when the game stops. So now I just put that in, and you're using the -SS switch for it. So you can kind of see this, and you go to releases, you go to ROMSniffer, you can see it down here, example how to use it. So you go -SS and you put the program in, then you put the arguments in. So then it runs the program when the game stops, as you can see here. It does this one when the game starts. It does this one when the game stops. And you can actually use the ROM thing too if you want to by using the argument to switch it out. So that was like the one change for ROMSniffer. So that's all the enhancements. So also one thing, I don't know if I said this or my memory's bad or not, But I did go up and reread the Qt stuff, and I found out there is no requirements that no requirements that I have to make my programs open source because I'm just linking to Qt's DLLs. So since I'm just linking to their normal DLLs, there's no requirement to make them open source. But since I don't care about if there's not a requirement, I will still make it open source when the project is complete. So like I've told, it's like all pre-production code will be private for all projects now in the future. That's just how it's going to be. But people can request source code, and it's on a case-by-case basis. So it's not totally closed. It's just private, and somebody has a good thing, say, hey, I need this. I'm like, oh yeah, it's something good. It's like I have no problem giving the source code out. But it just, like I said, it keeps people kind of honest. There's no more anonymous people where they can just take the code. Now I know who all the people who take the code, so it just makes it easier. So for the future, now I kind of got that bug in for the RSC Reaper. I'm going to update the tutorial video to talk about kind of the bugs and all that, because I still have people like saying, hey, I'm having this thing with my Reaper, blah, blah, blah. I still get that every once in a while with the bugs and all that. And it's like I said, it's not a fault of Hook of the Reaper. It's just because the bugs in the light gun itself. So, but now I got that option in for the auto LED. I can put that in and go through all the bugs and have, so when people do add the light gun in, they'll be fully aware of all the bugs for the Reaper. So hopefully I don't have people come in and go, oh my God, what's wrong? It's not working, kind of thing. And that's kind of just to kind of stop that. And also finally, now, like I said, I've got that bug, and plus hopefully closed out LED Hook strip and be done with it. I can finally start working on, I have worked on RPEG Brooks in the Linux conversion, so I have made progress on that. So actually for the RPEG board, I can read and write data to it. I can figure out the 4 players, and I figure out how, because the problem is like, because it has 4 players, so should I have 4 light controllers for it, or should I have 1 light controller for all the 4 players? And I think I'm going to have 1 light controller for 4 players. So now I got to figure out how to write all the data and all that and figure that out. But that's not too bad. That's pretty easy. So most all the hard figuring out for RPEG Brooks is done. And since I have the framework all done with the group files and all that, it should be pretty easy to once, when I finally get the writing to it, like that one last thing, it should go really fast. And I've got code in for the Linux conversion. It's not too bad for light guns, as I talked about, but the light controllers is where kind of a lot of the problems are, because I have to rewrite the pack drive SDK. But the good news is I finally got Linux working on my computer. Last weekend I did it. It took about 5 hours to install and set up. I had a lot of problems with it. I first thought it was my 10G, because I have 10 gigabit network connection. I have a 10 gigabit network card because I have my NAS downstairs, which is on a 10 gigabit too, and I have like a fiber optic backbone and all that, so I can access the NAS at really high speeds and all that. But I first thought that it was having problems, but nope, it was actually my graphics card, because I have a NVIDIA RTX 5000 card, and the Linux drivers weren't really that great for it. And I tried like the KDE Plasma on Domain, and it wouldn't even load. So I went to GNOME, and it kind of loaded, but then I finally got the driver, so it's this long whole thing. But I finally got it working. I got Qt installed, so I finally now have like a drive I can just plug in. It'll boot up to Linux, so it's great. So now I have Linux again on my full computer, which is good. So I finally got that done. So now I can, like I said, I can put my full time to RPEG Brooks and the Linux conversion, and hopefully be done with LED Hook strip. But that's it. So you can go download off Hook of the Reaper's website, since it's not GitHub anymore. So from the Hook of the Reaper site, you can just go to releases and you can do Hook of the Reaper here, LED Hook here, and ROMSniffer. But that's it. Thanks. Bye.